Greetings, Earthlings. You're listening to the Probing Aliens podcast. I am your host, Golf, aka Putt Putt, and today we're probing trading. When we return. And today I am filming in my wonderful home, in my room, on my desk, with my brother, big brother actually, Bryce. Bryce, how are we doing today?
Good, good. It's a Saturday. Markets are closed, so I'm just having a chill day.
You're just relaxing, chilling.
Yeah.
Do you usually have a schedule of when you trade?
Yeah, so the forex markets open at 4 p.m. Mountain Time on Sunday, and then they close at 3 p.m. on Friday. I usually just trade Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10, maybe 11 my time. That's kind of it. Some days it'll be shorter. Some days I'm only in the market for an hour or two and I hit my daily goal and I'm kind of done.
So you usually have like a set daily goal that you kind of trade under instead of like a certain amount of hours?
Yeah, there's that. Depends. I guess you could say there's a lot of nuances in the markets, right? So if I'm able to tell that like, hey, I made enough for to be happy for the day, I'm just going to be done. The market's a little bit more volatile than I'd like, or maybe the structure just isn't there for me to really see, then I'll just step away at that point.
Mm, mm. And how did we get into trading in the first place?
So one of my friends a few years ago, he brought up trading and how he did it for like, kind of side money. I thought it was cool, kind of looked into it a little bit. Didn't really dive into it, but kind of heard about it. And then all of a sudden, social media, I kept seeing it over and over again. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look into this, see what this is all about. Started learning, um, and then just from there, where I'm at now.
And would you say that trading for you is more of a side hustle or is it like an actual thing, like an actual career for you or your job, I would say?
Yeah, so it's my job. I've been doing it full time this is my 8th month now. I left my job at the end of December and decided to pursue this full time. I've been trading for 3.5 years now. And once I started making consistent profits, I realized, you know what? I don't need to be at a place that I'm not enjoying my life in for 9 hours a day. So let me just do this. And, so far it's been good to me.
Mm. And you said you recently quit your job, right? How was that
Mhm.
transition working in a kind of like a stable field with, interacting with other people versus trading? How is that for you?
So I like it. Um, I'm somewhat of an introvert despite doing sales for the past 12 years. That's what I've done. I've done sales in all different markets and everything, but um, it's nice to just be my own boss, to work the hours that I need to work to hit my goals, to hit the numbers that I need to personally. So I also really enjoy the freedom that comes with it. Like I came out to visit you and the fam for 2 weeks. In a normal job setting, there's no way I could have been able to get 2 weeks of time off, even
Mm-hmm.
with it being a holiday.
Right. And when do you think like your sales skills transferred over to trading?
Um, I wouldn't really say directly. I mean, maybe it's the perseverance that comes with a sales mentality. In sales, you have to be able to handle rejection or no or failure and be able to look back at the mistake that was made or look back at what happened and how you can improve for the next time. And that's the same thing with trading. With trading, it's always going back and checking if you got into the trade that maybe you shouldn't have. or maybe even the moment you thought it was a good trade, you go back and you learn from that mistake, so that way you don't make that same mistake in the future.
Hmm. And I kind of want to double down on like the whole um before trading, right? Like, did you go to school when it came to all the jobs that you had? And
So
like,
I didn't go to school. I was thinking about going to school to be a cardiologist, you know.
mm-hmm,
Um, Decided, I don't really think I want to do that, so I was thinking maybe physical therapy. And while I was in my first semester, I got a sales job and did pretty well. And then so I started researching more about, more of like what sales really is and what kind of careers come with sales, and realized that the earning potential was just as good, if not greater, than the careers I would have been able to get going through college. And the bonus would be I wouldn't be, $100,000, $200,000 in debt. So um, that kind of made my decision of, okay, I'm just gonna pursue just a sales career.
and what kind of research did you do to help you make your decision?
Just going through Google, sales gurus, kind of getting an insight on what they've done, um, seeing what's potential out there. And then from there, I looked into just the jobs that were available at that time on Indeed. And then I'd Google the salaries and how much they're making, what the average is. And then looking into like what the day in the life is of like corporate sales or finance sales or whatever sales it may have been. And it just seemed like something that I wanted to pursue. And so, I jumped in full time and did that for, again, like the past 12 years.
How were you able to land a job without having a degree? Because I know in most places that are looking
Mhm.
for people for your position or your previous position, right? They usually look for people that have credentials. How were you able to find a job under those conditions?
Mhm. Yeah, so sales is one of those interesting career paths where, at least to get started, they don't necessarily need you to have a degree. It's just, can you communicate properly? That's really all that they're looking for in those entry level sales roles. So my first sales position was at a vitamin shop. It's called Vitamin World. Um, so that was how I first got into it. And I was just, helping people with supplement choices and educating them on which supplements were the best one for their health, or whatever goal that they had. From there, I went into esupplements.com. It's an online website for supplements, kind of like bodybuilding.com, and they had kiosks in the mall. So I applied and I started working there. Um, Ended up moving through that company. I became the manager of one of the kiosks. Then I became a manager of all four of the kiosks. And then I became an additional manager with going to more business to business sales. So that was like reaching out to gyms and having them sell our products for us. And so that was my, I guess, first role in a business to business sales environment. And that's where the money's at, is more business to
Mm,
business, not so much me trying to sell someone one product one time.
mm-hmm.
And that's how I built up my experience to the point where it didn't matter that I didn't have a 4-year degree. I've had at that point, I believe it was 6 years of real world experience with proven track record of exceeding goals and hitting these numbers that were required. And after that, it just became easier to uh, find companies that would pay me more per sale, where I'd be able to help people on a grander scale.
And did you have to do like any because I know you told me you did door to door too. Like what kind of different sales positions did you take up?
Yeah, so door to door is interesting. I sold security systems for Vivint, um, and that was in Hawaii, which was awesome. I got very lucky. Most people go to like Arkansas or the middle of Texas when it's 110 degrees, but I got really lucky there. Um, so yeah, door to door sales. Most of my other sales experience was like retail. So I worked at T-Mobile for a little bit, the supplement shops for a long period of time. And then from there, I started working at United Healthcare and worked in their logistics division, where we found business owners to transport patients to and from their hospital visits. And these are typically people who are on Medicare or Medicaid. So it was government funded for those businesses, and that's how they end up getting paid. Um, and then from there, I went to Lendio, which is where I was there for about 4 years, and that was like small business loans. So I helped small businesses get funding for their businesses so they can stay afloat maybe during a slow period, like a slow season, or ramp up during a busy season.
Mm. And how I had the question in my head. How how was it? Did you have to do okay, hold on, let me reformulate here. You had to deal with a lot of people and communicating, and you said that you were an introvert. So, as an
Mhm.
introvert, how was that feel like for you?
I think one of the benefits of being like an introvert is being able to analyze people. Like in a group, you're kind of the one that's quiet. You're kind of just looking at how people are interacting,
Mm-hmm.
and then you chime in every once in a while. Typically, if you're asked to do something direct. Um, so being an introvert, I that's just all I did is, and I still do that today, is I just kind of see how people are interacting and I learn from that. And in sales is interesting because I'm no longer an introvert when I'm in that sales process. I take on a
Mm.
completely new persona and become that the expert in that field. So because I view it as like an educational standpoint where I want to help
Mm.
these people and teach them like this is good for you because of all of these things that you shared with me. This is going to improve you whatever situation you're in, or it's going to prevent any bad situation from coming your way.
Right, like
And
kind of
that's
thinking
something that's really
logical.
important. What was that?
You said I said kind of thinking logical at that point. Like you're
Yeah,
you're you're
exactly.
going at it from a standpoint of just wanting to help them versus selling them
Yep.
something.
Yeah. I so I actually left the door to door. I was making the best money I've ever made in my life, and I was only doing it for 2, maybe 3 months. And I ended up quitting. I mean, I left early. It's normally a 4 or 5 month job. It's a seasonal thing just through the summer. But I left because I started feeling like, you know what? Like, I don't really think that these people need this security system, you know?
Mm.
And so I stopped believing in the product and I stopped believing that I was actually helping people. And that's something to me where just because my approach to sales is is consultative, it's educational. Like I want to show them why this is helpful for them. And
Mm-hmm.
if I don't believe that my product is helpful, what am I doing?
Right. Like you don't want to have to I don't want to say rip off people, but like you don't want to take advantage of people.
Yeah, it's like being that stereotypical salesperson. That's why people hate salespeople is because they just think they're just trying to, screw them over.
How did you deal with those stereotypical allegations against you? Because I'm pretty sure you've dealt with some.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only time I really experienced it was door to door.
Mm.
Um, just because, I'm knocking on people's doors and they're like, okay, what do you want to sell me?
Mm-hmm.
But everywhere else, it was, I actually had something that was to improve their situation. And most of it was like inbound, where people were reaching out to me for
Mm.
assistance rather than me just trying to reach out to them and say like, hey, you want to buy this?
So you
So
didn't do a
that's
lot of
that's
cold
definitely
calling.
helpful. Not a lot of cold calling. I have done cold calling. Um, so my last supplement job, where I reached out to local gyms, CrossFit gyms, and then even supplement shops to sell our products. And I was comfortable with that just because our products were inexpensive for consumers. Those are great, great margins for the businesses, and they actually worked. They were properly formulated to the point where it made sense for someone to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, that's when I'm okay with reaching out and cold calling. Did a little bit of cold calling in my finance job too, and that was helpful because small businesses, believe it or not, they are always in need of finance. So I was able to help out probably close to 1,000 small businesses just with those types of loans.
So working with that many businesses and kind of figuring out how they operate, um, I know sometimes that's kind of needed. Information like that is kind of needed when you're trading. I don't know if it translates into foreign exchange, but I know that foreign exchange is heavily influenced by the news that's happening around the world. So does having like business acumen help when trading?
I will say it does and it doesn't. The reason why it would is just because you can understand a bit about what type of news is coming out and what that means for the economy, and that can influence you to make a certain trade or have a certain bias towards where the market is heading. But that's a double-edged sword
Mm.
because your bias at that point could be wrecked by the media. I believe in my trading method is that the financial elites in the world control all of the markets at any given time. They have trillions and trillions of dollars in it, and they don't want to lose money. And so for me, I try not to let news heavily impact my bias. Instead, I have my analysis impact my bias. And news is kind of a way for me to understand, okay, this is going to be a high volume day. Depending on how the charts are looking, is this a day where I want to be in and be heavily involved and take advantage of the additional volume? Or is this a day that I'm just going to stay out of the market completely because there's just no rhyme or reason to it today?
Mm. And did you have to go through like any courses or anything? Because I know there's a bunch of these gurus selling courses on how to
Mhm.
trade forex and stuff. Did you take any of those courses?
So I took one, and it was a monthly subscription thing where, he had a Discord channel and everything where everyone in there would share trade ideas and help answer questions and everything. And he did a weekly webinars. He had a full-on course outline and everything. And I liked his. His name's Anton. He runs Ment Funding. Ment FX is the name of the mentorship. And that helped me the most because I already had that opinion of the financial elites are the ones running the markets. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, what I started doing before I jumped into that mentorship is I was learning, okay, well, how can I look at these clues as to what's likely going to happen again in the near future? And he goes so in depth on that where I mean we could talk about that for 3 days consistently about that. It's crazy. There's a lot of information in there.
Would you say that learning with other people kind of helps you develop your trading skills?
I think it did. So there were a couple people in the mentorship who would put out ideas and I trade ideas, and I didn't really agree with them, and so I'd ask them, just kind of like, why is this way? It's not following these rules, and they explained it to me, and it started to make sense. And something that I learned with trading, and being in the mentorship is that you could have the same idea, philosophy, and basically trade outline as someone else, but they could execute it completely differently. And
Mm.
that doesn't mean they're wrong at all. There are so many different ways where you can make money in any trading market. So there's not a right or a wrong way to trade.
Hmm. And how how was that process for you, like learning trading? Like, can you walk me through that from starting out to where you are now?
Yeah, so starting out, because all these gurus, they post and like I made $15,000 today, and this is the two easy strategies that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I thought trading was initially. Is I thought, okay, well, I just need to learn these two things and I'm good. I'm good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly found out that that's not reality of the situation. There's a lot more things that are involved in that. Those two things could be part of it, and you could just execute based off those two things. But there's other strategies and other um, I guess, time in the markets and seeing the charts that help influence your decision whether to place a trade or not to place a trade.
And is it like a gut feeling that you go off of, or is it more of a technical thing that you go off of?
It's all technical. So I have set rules. If a trade looks good, but it hasn't reached my set rules, I just don't get in. Every once in a while, I ape and I get in anyway. And 9 out of 10 times, I regret it because it's like, I have these rules for a reason. These rules are what make me profitable. If I'm not following these rules, then I'm nothing. I'm just another person gambling on Wall Street.
hmm And these rules that you've made for yourself, you've developed those rules because of the experience you had in the market.
Yep, in conjunction with my mentorship. Mentorship taught me a lot, but I kind of twisted it and made it my own to where it's makes sense with me. And part of that is backtesting, going through, redoing the markets from, you can go back on TradingView is one of the platforms I use for my back testing and my analysis, and you can go back years in the past and you can test that same strategy over and over again. And once you find
Mm,
one that works well, you can find other things that are complementary towards that.
I see. Because, as a retail trader myself, right? Like, I don't back test at all. I kind of just go off of hype and gut feeling with a little bit of like technical analysis. So I don't know if backtesting would help me become even more profitable. Would you say that backtesting is essential when it comes to trading?
I I would say that 99 out of 100 traders need to backtest if they want to really make it.
Mm,
If you're a
99 out of
trader
100.
who's just going to go off of hype, you can make money off of that. You definitely can. But if that's going to be your only source of income, you have to have a lot of money that you can dump into the market off that hype in order to make a sustainable living. If you don't have a ton of money to do that, there's just no way you're going to make it, in my opinion. I think back testing is the biggest advantage that retail traders have when it comes to trading.
Mm,
It's the number one thing. If anyone wants to learn trading, if they want to get into it, have it be full time or even a side hustle, I 100% encourage everyone to get a strategy, test it over at least 100 trades, and see what those results are like. Because otherwise, you might get emotions involved. And to me, emotions are really bad when you're trading. You might think like, oh, this trade's going to reverse. You might have that feeling because it's dropped so far. Now you want to buy. Doesn't necessarily mean that the market's going to agree.
mm-hmm.
So backtesting is super important. You have a systematic approach to entering and exiting a trade.
And so I kind of want to go deeper in on like the whole emotional part. I know some people who are kind of emotional when it comes to their money, especially if they're throwing it into forex, stocks, the casino. Basically, this is the market. I like to call the market the casino because that's basically what
Yep.
it is, just one
Hmm.
giant casino. Casino. So, um, when throwing in your money, right? Like how do you not be emotional whether you throw in like $100 or $100,000? Like is that any different? Because I know some people they always say, "Oh, I don't have enough money to start trading. I don't know if I can. Like I don't know if I want to lose this much." How does that
Hmm.
play into the whole like knowing your emotions when it comes to trading?
So there are a few ways on how you can control or manage your emotions while you're trading. And what I do is I will have a very small account where I place my trades, but that copies over to my larger accounts that I have. So I'm not seeing high dollar amounts when I'm trading. I'm only seeing the small amount where it's to the point where it's negligible and the dollar amount doesn't impact my decisions. It's just placed there so that way I can see the chart move up and down.
Okay.
So that's one way. Another way is on MetaTrader, which is the trading platform I use, they have a way for you to change it from the profit. So the profit will be shown in either a dollar amount, which is standard, or pips, which is like the movement um, in that account, or the movement in that currency or pair, or whatever, however you want to call it. So that's another way where you can manage it there too. That's what I do. Other people will have tons of other ways where they'll do it, where maybe they just place the trade and they don't even look at it. They don't look at it. They have alerts set up where if it hits a certain point, then they get notified it's at this level. And they say, okay, cool. And they just move on with their day. For me, I don't do that just because I don't have really long trades. My trades are normally 10, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, but they're pretty quick for the most part, at least for how I trade. So alerts don't work for me, but I found a lot of success with having that smaller account size, placing that trade there, so I'm not seeing a high dollar amount.
But if you lose tremendously in that small trading account, then you're losing a lot more in that bigger trading account that you have.
Yep. And that's where there are rules in place where you may have a daily loss rule where it's like, I will only lose 1% today. I'll only
Mm.
lose 2%. Whatever your rule ends up being, you just do off of your small account. So
Mm-hmm.
that's it too. The second part, and I guess another really important thing with preventing being emotional while you're trading is your back testing. If you've back tested your strategy 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 times, you are so confident where it doesn't even matter. You could have 5 trades, 10 trades, all go negative, and you can lose all those in a row. But you understand that that doesn't mean that my strategy isn't right in the long run. That just means the market isn't cooperating right now. And that happens. That happens to me. I'll have a week where I'm going to be down. So I'll trade every day and I'm just down that week, the losing week. And then that next week, the following week, I make all of that money back and then some. So I understand that that's how my strategy works, where I'm not going to be in the profits every single day. That's just a unrealistic expectation for traders to have, is to make money every single day.
That must take a lot on your mental though, like having to accept the fact that for some weeks you're gonna be down, like you're not gonna have a lot of money that you're gonna be able to spend or even invest with. But
hmm
like how do you deal with that volatility and mindset and emotions?
So I think that that's where sales comes in also is um, quite a few of the jobs that I've had, it's been commission only, where I only made money if I sold something. And I had to come to peace with, there's going to be days or weeks where I'm not able to close anything, where people aren't answering their phones or people aren't wanting to talk to me. And so I think that that mentality has helped me um, stay strong during those tougher times when it's trading, where it's a whole week where I'm negative. But then again, it goes back to my back testing. I back tested over 10,000 trades with my strategy, and I know it's profitable. And because of like that 100% confidence, I could have an entire month where it's negative. That sucks. I lost money that month, but I also understand that that just means the next month I'm going to make all of that money back and then some.
Mm. And you said that it kind of goes back to sales and being commission based. Um, like what were some ways that kind of helped you survive those down months?
Um, Budgeting. You have really good months in sales, you're able to make a lot of money and you just don't spend it all. Um, that for me it helped me stay afloat, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to make X amount of money and spend X amount of money that whole month because you had a great month and you wanted to have a good time, as a salesperson that's commission only, like you understand that the next month doesn't mean it's going to be that good. You could make nothing that month, or maybe you make half. And so that helps you with your budgeting. And with trading, that comes into risk management, where you have to have the idea of, okay, well, my win rate is, let's say you have a low win rate, but you make money. So my win rate is 30%. So I know that there's a chance that there might be where I lose 7 trades in a row. And that could be one trade a day or 2 trades a day. So a whole week goes by. But you also need to come back and remember, like, this is my win rate over X period of time, over 10,000 trades. So I understand that over 10,000 trades, it just makes sense that I'm going to come on a roll and I'm going to be able to make these trades happen. It's just having the confidence in your system. That's the biggest thing.
Mm. And you mentioned budgeting and risk management. So
Hmm.
when you were in sales, did you develop those money habits while you were in the field, or did you kind of get those engraved into while you're growing up?
I think growing up, that's interesting you ask that because there's there's a phenomenon where people who grow up, poor or in, lower economic situations, once they come in touch with money, they can't save it. They just spend and splurge and then they
Yeah.
end up being broke.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very, very common. I grew up in that type of a situation where we didn't have a lot. We had to move around. I think I've moved nearly 30 times in my life, and a lot of it being because of financial reasons growing
Mm-hmm.
up. Um, and so that's something that I, one, never wanted to be in when I became an adult. I told myself I will never be in that situation again. So I learned finances and how to budget. I learned all of these things as soon as I could, and that was in high school. So I learned all of that, Googled, YouTubed, did everything I could do to learn um, smart money habits. What can make me successful in the long run, even if I'm not making a lot of money, because you don't need to make a lot of money to be very well off in the
Mm-hmm.
long run. So that's something that I took and I started learning. And then with sales, I was able to, I guess you could say, I was able to have real world implementation of that, where I'd have months where I made insane money, and I had other months where I made okay money, where I made enough to pay my bills. But I know that if I went in and I had a crazy month and I spent all of that, there might be a month where money's really tight and I have to worry about, can I make my rent this next month? So I guess I'd just say that. I guess to answer your question, I dove into that a lot in high school because I'm old. And in high school, that's when the internet became more prevalent with what everyone uses. Everyone Googles everything nowadays. Back then, it wasn't so often. It was something that people just started really doing was Googling things.
Mm. And would you say that you back tested your money habits with when you got money and then when you didn't have money?
Did I back test? Like, so
Yeah.
have I gone back and thought of like, okay, what could I have done differently type thing?
Yes.
Oh, big time. Big time. For me, I love cars. Big car guy, mostly European cars, and those are expensive. So, one of the things that I would tell my younger self and what I'll tell my children is there's no need to splurge on that type of a car when you're in your 20s. There's not any need.
Mm.
Make sure it's at a set percentage of your income. If you're making, I mean, hell, if you're making 500,000 a year, go ahead and buy a car. Like you can do it, right?
Right.
But I was doing it to the point where it was 30% of my income monthly, and that was my car payment. And that's just not smart to me. To me personally, I think 10-15% of what you're bringing in each month, that should be your car payment. And if it
Mm-hmm.
could be lower, then great. So that's one of those things where I went back tested. Another thing, and this is something that like I think it depends on where you're at um, in the country. I live in Utah, and so a lot of people here they get married super young, like 19,
Oh
and
wow.
they start having kids and everything that young, and they're just strapped for cash, man. It's not good, especially now. Housing is so expensive now.
Mm-hmm.
But something I would encourage people to do, or, looking back in my past for the back testing purposes, is to stay at home for as long as you can, uh, and contribute to the family, do what you need to do there. But if you could stay home, sheesh, insane. I think I've went back, and if I remember correctly, I've spent over 200K in the past 10 years, 12 years on rent and my mortgage
Dang,
currently.
that's a lot.
So like imagine like if I was just staying at home my single years, and then when I got married, I moved out, I think that's something that you should do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be up about 200 grand. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of money.
And I don't know, it'll vary situation to situation. Like I understand there are some situations where maybe the dynamic at home isn't healthy and you need to get out of there. And for those people, power to you, get out of there, get somewhere where it's healthy, where you have positive energies. But I'd say for the most part, stay at home. Stay at home, save that money, and then once you can buy a house, do it.
It's hard these days for that kind of advice to kind of resonate with some people because you know how some people like to have that instant gratification, right? Like you it's necessary to make sacrifices in order to achieve something greater for yourself in the future rather than getting that instant gratification now.
But
So,
yeah, big time.
how how did you how did you learn to combat that instant gratification when it came to, gaining large sums of money whenever you made a sale or whenever you made a successful trade?
So I had a time how old was I, man? 24 maybe, where I didn't have a job for a little bit of time and I had all of these high expenses. I had this lifestyle that I was living and it caught up to me. And I was like, shit, like I need to change things, And for me, that was my wake up call. And I'm lucky that and grateful that that happened at such a young age,
Mhm.
where that made me realize, you know what, maybe I don't need these nicest things in life. Um, Maybe I should be more forward thinking than instant gratification. Like, this is what I want. I need this now. I have the money to do it, so let me just do it. Or, hey, I just got this credit card, so let me just throw it on that and I can pay it back later. I think that really helped me. And I guess I'm making that situation sound worse than it really was. I still had my 6 month safety net of expenses. I still had that in the account, but I was approaching having to dig into that, and that scared the
Mm.
shit out of me.
Mhm.
For me personally, like if I dig into my 6 month security or emergency fund, that's when I know, like for me, that's my rock bottom. I know it's not
Mm.
really, but like I've just trained myself and to the point where I don't want to be where I was growing up, and I don't want my family to be where I was growing up. So I'll do anything it takes to not be there.
Mhm. And a lot of these habits that you've developed for yourself, it kind of sounds like you're basing it off of like how you grew up, right? So
Hmm.
how was your living situation growing up?
Man, growing up, it's rough, dude. So I was born in Montana, moved to Idaho when I was 4. From there, moved to California, or sorry, no, from Idaho, moved to Nevada. I think I was 7. Then I moved to Cali when I was like 9. Then I moved to Texas when I was like 11. Then moved to Utah when I was 15. And I've been in Utah since then. But during that time, I've moved so much where like I don't want that anymore. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
want that. I want the stability. So growing up with so much instability, like the stability is what I crave. I can adjust to instability. Like I can handle that easily. That is just I grew up with it my whole life.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I know how to handle that situation. But what that helped me realize is I don't want that. I don't want that anymore. When I moved to Utah, I was 15, 16, 17 or so, and hanging out with some friends in school, and I saw how their lifestyle was, how their family was, and I was like, this is what I want. So I guess you can say that going through everything I went through and seeing what could be and that it is possible, that helped me realize like I'm gonna do it. This is what I'm gonna do no matter what.
Hmm. You know, it's kind of funny that you say that you grew up with instability, right? And that you can adapt to instability, but you crave stability, right? It's funny you say that
Yeah,
because with forex, it's such a volatile, unstable market, but you're competing in that market to create stability for yourself.
yeah. It's really funny.
Yeah.
It is,
Would
and
you
I think
say that
that
you have
it's
like a advantage over other people?
um maybe just because I'm okay with the fact that things could go south,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm confident in the fact that things will get better.
Mm, interesting. And you know, you sound really humble with the money that you have and the money that you make. Um, how do you do it? How do you stay humble?
Eh, I just I think maybe it's the introvert in me, you know? Like people are flashy with their money. They think that they need to prove something to, their friends. And to me, I've just always thought like that's wasteful. I don't know. Maybe it's just the introvert in me where I don't feel like I need to show off. I don't get any gratification of that. So it's just all me.
Mm-hmm. You said that you lived that lifestyle before. How was that?
So I guess the lifestyle was more of cars. I've never lived in super fancy apartments or bought like a crazy home. I think my living place has always been pretty modest. I'm not sure why with cars it's been something different where I've wanted something nice. Maybe it's just, being a kid and seeing really nice cars and things like that. Like you end up liking them. And then when I got the money to do, I wanted one. I think that actually when I was in Texas, there were a lot of car meets that would happen near the apartments I lived in. It was at a gas station, and I was
Mm,
like, you know what, I want that. That's what I want. So I think that's probably when I made up my mind, and now subconsciously, that's just something that stays with me. I'm still at the situation where like, like I want nice cars, and I have nice cars, but now it's way more affordable. It's not
mm-hmm.
at that 35% of my income situation. It's at that 10% or so that I'm preaching now of what I think is smart financially
Right.
to to finance.
And you know, like having such a lucrative like job as a trader, how does banks see that, you know? Because like when you're trying to apply for a loan and stuff, or you're trying to buy a house, don't you need to
Hmm.
show like you have stable income? How do
Oh,
you deal with that?
yeah. So I I would advise traders out there if you are learning and if you want to be a trader to either A, buy the home, get the car that you want, whatever it is based off of your current income, and be okay with not being able to get another loan for a car or a home or really any other type of loan for the next 3 years or so.
Mm.
Banks will want to see the bare minimum is two, but with how the economy is now, banks are a lot more tough. Another piece of advice is to not put on your application that you're a day trader. Put something where you are a commodities exchange expert or for your LLC. Come up with some bullshit name that sounds a little bit more professional than a day trader, because they aren't going to like that.
Mm.
When it comes to like business financing, what you'll need to end up doing is you'll need to finance through your LLC or your corporation, however you determine to set up your business, minimum 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
With my finance experience with business lending, I would recommend at least three just to improve the most chances. So be okay with not being able to take out a new car loan or buy a house for at least 3 years and show a profitable return on your tax return. If you can't show profitability on a tax return, you're not going to get qualified. It's just how it is.
Mm. You know, it sounds like to be a trader, right? Like you have to be okay with making a lot of sacrifices and trade-offs in order to live that, life that you want to live for yourself freely. Do you
Hmm.
think that it's worth the trade-off to be able to live freely for yourself instead of working for someone else?
Oh, 100%. 100%. The things I've been able to do this year since leaving my job in December, there's no way in hell I could have done it if I was still there. I would have ran out of PTO in March. You know, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there's just I wouldn't be able to do what I want to do. The really cool thing about trading is you can do it anywhere in the world. So if you're profitable enough where maybe you are just renting some, studio apartments just because you want to maintain a residency in whatever state that you live in, um, you could live anywhere. You can live in Thailand, you can go to Bora Bora, you can go to Sweden, Norway, you can travel Europe, you can do whatever you want. That's the beauty that comes with trading, just because it's your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it any time. And the reason why I like forex instead of the typical like stock traders are, you know, while the stock market's open, where forex is basically it's essentially 24/5. Essentially, there's a 1 hour break in the midday. For me, it's between 3 and 4 with mountain time. But other than that, I can trade any time of the day I want during the weekdays. And that freedom allows me to go to Europe and I can trade the London session, which would be normal trading hours for us here in America, which is like the 9 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm.
So huge, huge freedom. I 100% would take this over a 9 to 5 any day, so long as I'm profitable, you know?
So long as you're profitable. That's the key
Yeah,
right
as
there.
soon as that's the key.
That's the
You don't
key.
want to not be profitable and, just, I mean, it depends. It depends on the situation, right? But
So,
ultimately, for me, I can't do that. I don't have the luxury of not making money.
right. So, let's say for example, like you are a trader, right? And you aren't really getting a high percentage win rate, and then when you do win, you're really not winning that much. What would you say to that person to either help them or, tell them to, hey, maybe it's time to look at some other options?
I think for any profitable trader out there, your system's not profitable. Um, Figure out why. Backtest. Backtest the shit out of your strategy. Figure out what's going on. Because if it's not profitable, there's a reason why. If it's not profitable over the long run, then that's definitely a thing with your system. If it's not profitable over a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, that might not be too big of an issue. In my opinion, if you're not profitable and it's been a month and maybe you're close to break even, but you're in the negative, could just be a bad month. But I would still suggest going back and back testing, figure out why it's not working, or maybe figure out a new strategy, maybe something that to implement. If you have 4 key things that you look for, take away 2 of them and see what happens when you just implement 2 parts of your strategy. Do that 100 times at least. I'd say 1,000 really. That way you can have a long-term idea of how it's going to impact your life. Um, and if just trading off those 2 strategies works for you, then hell yeah, just do that. And if that doesn't, then try something new. Add something to that. But no matter what, go back and back test. You have the power to be able to go back in time with trading and figure out what's wrong. So if you're not taking advantage of that and you want to be a trader full time and that's all you want to do, man, you're missing out.
Mm, that's some pretty good advice. Rather than like telling someone to quit, just try a little bit harder before you actually
Yeah,
give up.
just go back. Yeah, learn from the mistake, man. Like, just because you're not doing good at something right now doesn't mean you can't be great at it in the future.
Hmm.
Learn why it's not working for you. And if it comes down to where it's you, and you can't control your emotions, you can't manage your emotions, or your risk management is really poor, or maybe you're just gambling with the markets, get the hell out of the markets and go do something else until you can manage that. Because for me, at least, that's why it's like 99% of people who try trading fail. They can't handle those. They can't manage those.
Mm-hmm. And so, would you say that trading, since you're dealing with global markets at this point, right? Would you say that trading has helped you learn more about how the world operates?
Yeah, so there's a really good book. I recommend it to everyone. It's called The Creature of Jekyll Island. And that goes over just just how the world works, how money moves, the reason why things happen the way they happen. And that will open your eyes to everything. Um, yeah, that book changed my life and how I perceive finances and just, I mean, honestly, just how the world works in general.
The
It's
creature
eye-opening, so
of
I
Jackal
recommend it.
Island.
Yep, The Creature of Jekyll Island. Essentially, it goes over the formation of the Federal Reserve, what happens, and um, I don't want to spoil the book for anyone, but just how money moves
Okay.
in modern day society. It
Hmm.
is very enlightening. Um, yeah, so that book's amazing.
Mm. And so, now that you have that kind of perspective of the top 1% global elite kind of move everything in this world, um, do you kind of implement that knowledge into your trading strategies?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's why I trade solely off of bank movement. I understand where banks have completed certain types of orders to be able to move price in a certain way. And I understand that they need to come back into an area to mitigate those positions to continue price higher or to continue price lower. Um, Basically, I mean, in the simplest form, banks or the financial elites are moving money in a way where they leave a footprint. And so I view my job now as I'm like a detective. I try to find that clue, that little breadcrumb,
Mm.
and understand that they're going to come back and collect that eventually.
Mm.
And then they're
Mm.
going to move price in the same direction or reverse it. So I look for clues, and that's how I view the charts. Is it's all clues for me. Where is it likely going to come? Once it gets to that point, that's a completely different thing. Where it's okay, now I need to look for other clues that indicate is price going to go the way that it appears it's going to be, or is it going to reverse? And that's where I typically would take my action.
Hmm. And how do you do most of your research now? Like, what are some things without giving away too much, right? Like, what do you look for in a trade?
Um, let's see. I think the most familiar term is order blocks. So I'll look for order blocks and then check in there to see if price is going to continue higher or lower. Typically, for me, if a price gets into an area that I'm interested in, I look for a double break up if my bias is bullish, or I look for a double break down if my bias is bearish, and then I'll enter off of that. Typically, I mean there's a few other ways on how I will enter, but it just depends on price movement at that time. Price can move completely different, so there's not a single thing that I'm looking for. There are several clues that I look for.
Hmm. And there's a lot of terminology involved with trading in general. Um,
Hmm.
do you think it's a good idea to kind of study up on these terms, or do you just
I mean,
kind
it
of have
can
to
be.
just go with the flow and just start like, yeah, man, I'm bullish or I'm bearish, bro. Like, yeah, you saw the little move up, like that's a sick ratio.
That's because there there are so many different ways of trading where I might not agree with someone's trade, where maybe I'm bullish, but they might be bearish right now. And that's what's really fascinating to me about trading is that I have a couple friends that I trade with. Well, we all trade, and we'll kind of share ideas every once in a while, but we might not agree on a trade where there might be a time where I'm in a buy position and then my friend might come in 15 minutes later and start selling it. But that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I still end up making money on that trade. And then he makes money off that trade too. But how does that happen? I just bought and he sold. And that's where really diving into what trading really means and how you can make sense of it and how you can make money off of it. Like that's where it's really important. There are so many nuances to trading where anyone can learn it, but not everyone can master it.
Mm. And we talked about this off air when you were visiting town actually. We were talking about how having that understanding of human psychology kind of helps with trading because you're essentially playing with other people at the poker table or at the casino.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
what have you figured out about humans so far when it comes to the trading markets?
Um, so it's like the whole thing of like early adopters, late adopters, people who get in right at the right time. That's the same thing with trading. And that's why for me I'll wait for a confirmation. So for those of you guys out there who, you play poker, you might put out you might bluff, right? But you'll want to see your opponent's reaction. You'll look at their body language. You might see how they're playing with their chips or how they push out the call or maybe a raise. You're going to want to see those clues that they give you as to whether or not they might actually have something. So it's the same thing on the charts. I will look at the patterns on the chart to see, I call them the orders, but the patterns or how the candlesticks look. So how do these orders look and where is it likely going to go there? Because there's always clues that are left over. So if you could pick up on those clues, you can maximize on that.
Okay, okay. And would you say that, you know, understanding human psychology through the trading markets helps you communicate better with people outside since you're an introvert?
I really think the charts have helped me with that. Really, I think that's just the my sales experience has helped me communicate.
Mm.
Yeah, charts, if I mean staring at charts all day, that's not how you're going to practice communication. I think you got to get out there and talk to people.
And so what happens if trading isn't doing it for you anymore? Like what's next?
Just going back into sales, man. That's tried and true. I know that I'm successful there, so trading ever doesn't work out there, then that's what I'll do. And if I have enough where to the point where I'm making other investments, whether it's in real estate or something else, then maybe I pursue that. But I'd say that the easiest thing for me to go back to and fall on is just sales.
But you definitely don't want to go back to sales, is what I'm
No,
hearing.
yeah, no. If I can, I'd love to do this full time. The freedom is unmatched, and the earning potential is I can make way more money doing this than I could ever make trade or make selling.
Hmm. And so looking back at your whole entire trading career, right?
Hmm.
Um, how far do you think you've come from since you first started?
Oh, insane amounts, man, insane amounts. Most people, like I said, it's about like 95, 99% of people don't find profitability. And of the 1 to 5%, how many of those people do you think do it full time? And that's all they do, fraction of a percent. So I'm very blessed to be where I'm at. I've come a long ways, and I know I still have a long way to go. But right now, I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm just excited for what's to come.
And in this current market condition, right? Like, isn't it a little scary to be trading, or would you say that this is like the perfect time to start trading?
Oof, that's a good question. I think that depends. Um, for me, right now, it's a great time. I personally enjoy volatility. I enjoy the big moves. Um, so long as it's fitting my rules to get into a trade. Um, for newcomers, it can be difficult because price for maybe 5 days wants to be bullish, but then all of a sudden for 10 days it goes bearish. and then you just get confused. You're like, what the hell's going on? It's 5 days in a row. It was good, so it can be tough, but that's where coming up with your strategy, having a fixed set of rules that you follow off of every single trade, that's where you're going to be able to go back. You can go back to 2008 and see what happened back then. You can go back to the dot-com bubble and see what happened with that volatility in the global markets because it impacted the world. So you can go back then and see kind of how the volatility works and then implement that into your strategy so you can be prepared for anything.
Hmm. And would you ever want to dip your toes into other markets as well, like stocks, cryptocurrencies, real estate?
Yeah, so as far as chart wise, stocks and crypto is interesting. Crypto is a lot tougher for me. It doesn't hold as many areas that I like, so I took a step away from crypto. Stock market is interesting. There are a lot more things with stocks than there are with crypto, like doing options puts with crypto or with forex is just buy and sell. That's all I need to do. I don't need to do
Mm,
anything else. I don't have um, contracts I have to deal with. There aren't as many things involved with forex as stocks, but stocks would be something interesting. I just don't like the fact that I don't have leverage
mm.
to be able to place orders to make a certain amount of money off of a trade. But real estate is something that I'm looking for long term. Long term, I want to be able to have a minimum 100 doors, so at least 100 rental units. That's a bare minimum for me.
Oh wow. I hope you hit that goal. That's a lot of rental
Same,
units.
same. I hope.
So
I'm really hoping for that. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So if you were to go back in time, right, and tell yourself when you're first starting out, some tips and advice on trading, what would you do for your novice self?
My novice self, I would tell myself to backtest. Don't even jump into a live market. Just test your strategy. Open up a demo account. Place trades on demo accounts. That way you can see the actual things and it's not just on a backtesting platform. But do that first. Don't even throw money in because then you're just gambling. You don't know. You don't
Mm,
know if your strategy works. You're paying money to see. But there are platforms out there where it's free for you to see. So why would you pay money to do it? So that's the biggest advice I'd give myself is go through, learn, educate myself. There are a ton of gurus out there. Personally, I think most of them are BS, but you can still learn from them. Go on YouTube. There are tons of there is so much free content on YouTube when it comes to trading. You could take that, you might find someone that you agree with, someone who, follows along the lines of that really makes sense for you. Go and backtest that strategy. Figure that out. Do 1,000 trades with that same strategy and see if it works for you. If it doesn't, move on to the next person. But at that point, you're not wasting your time and money. At that point, you're just spending time and educating yourself.
hmm. And would you say that money lost is money earned?
Could be. It could be. Um, when it comes to the learning process, it's for me it was tough because I understood there were these tools. I knew I could backtest, but I also was too confident, right? In like, okay, well this strategy
Mm,
is gonna work. So I put money in and I lose the money. I'm like, well, what's going on? So I've been through that where I had a feeling or I watched, 100 hours of YouTube videos and I was like, okay, I'm ready. But I never tested anything. Didn't even see if it would work. Didn't even open up a demo account. I just threw money in an account and started trading it. And I blew that entire account. And I did it again and again and again. And then I realized, okay, well, this isn't working for me, so I need to do something different. So maybe I should go ahead and backtest. Maybe I should use these free tools that's available to everyone to see what I'm doing wrong. Like, what am I doing wrong? And how can I improve this?
mm,
How can I implement new things and start implementing those things and start testing and figuring out like, okay, well, this works, this doesn't. So I'm not going to do that ever again. So let me just focus on these things. Um, So I've been through that. I've been through that phase that I think every single trader on this planet has gone through. So that's why I'm very adamant of backtest, 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 backtest. Learn your system and be confident in your system before you ever place an actual trade with real money.
Hmm. Yeah, backtesting is something I wish I knew about beforehand, but I guess like how they say hindsight is 2020. Now that I look back at it, it makes complete sense that I would want to backtest my strategy because it just makes sense. Like you can literally test your strategy over and over and over again, um, and see if it's
Yep,
profitable or not.
exactly. Instead of waiting for something to happen that you think will work, maybe maybe you're someone who only trades off of a major news event. You're going to have to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months, or however long it is for that major news event to come. And then you're going to test it because you haven't done it before. So it's a test. And you're going to determine whether or not it failed. Let's say that takes you 3 months for that first initial trade. That person who's had 3 months to backtest every single day for even an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, they've gone through at least 1,000 scenarios at that point where they know for sure this doesn't work for me. So they know they are way more prepared than the person that's just going through and kind of
Hoping for the
going off in an
best.
emotion,
Mm,
right? Instead, it's a 100 or not 100% thing, but you're way more confident when you're placing that trade in that same amount of time.
mm. And you know, if you had the chance, you said you would like to travel or you could trade anywhere in the world. If you had to pick one place that you would move to right now, where would that be?
Southeast Asia, you know, Thailand is awesome. Thailand's a huge destination I think everyone wants to go to. Love to go visit Laos, the homeland, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
Vietnam, some original pho, can't go wrong with that. Cambodia, I don't know. Asia for me, like that's where I'd want to travel. Like to check out Europe too, but I don't know. I think that I know too much of the culture through history and everything where it's kind of overdone. So I think Asia is kind of where I'd want to go. I'd probably stay each country for a month or so and just hop around.
That sounds fun. And are you on track to do that right now?
Yeah, so I'm hoping, I mean, we'll see, but next 2 years or so we can do that and just enjoy life. It'd be ideal if it happened sooner, but for me, I have a lot, I guess, more conservative financial goals when it comes to saving amounts and things like that in order for that to happen.
Mhm.
For
Mhm.
me, it's, at least three years of expenses paid for, or 3 years of expenses saved up before I can even think about really, really doing that.
Yeah. Having a goal and having a plan is always the best strategy to have
100%.
when navigating life. Speaking of
hmm
life though, um so we've seen the news. I hope you've seen the news about the aliens
hmm
being revealed to exist and that we supposedly have bodies and technology in our possession.
hmm
What are your thoughts on aliens?
So I believe in aliens. I believe in the science that we have now of how the universe works. And if you believe in that science, I think it's foolish to not believe that I think it's foolish to believe that we're the only ones on this planet. But
Mm,
I also can understand why people don't believe in that science. And I can understand that. And that's okay to have that opinion. Um, as far as the new revelation of these aliens from our government, I think it's a huge ploy. I think it's a distraction. It always is with the government.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Time and time again, that's what it is. So there's something else that's going on, and I think in conjunction to that, it's a preparation for something. If you see the um, what's the word? the response to aliens being here according to our government, people are so chill about it. They're just like, yeah, well, of course, or it's nothing crazy. But if
Yeah.
you go back, if you were to go back 50 years ago and the government came out and said there were aliens, everyone would be freaking out. They'd be losing their minds. And I think it's because we've been so conditioned about it, where it's like, okay, yeah, it's real, or no, it's fake, or whatever it is. We've been so conditioned, we've been shown it so many times to the point where now we're desensitized to it. So we don't have that major emotional reaction to it as a nation and really as a
Mm,
globe, because it's global news too.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I absolutely believe that there are aliens,
What do you
100%.
think they're trying to cover up?
Oh man, I think that there are big financial issues in the world when it comes to the US dollar. You see BRICS, which is, kind of an escape from the US dollar for oil prices, for gas prices and everything. And there's there are a lot of other things. There's the situation in Ukraine, there's the Wagner Group that's I'm sure you've heard of with Russia and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of global political issues that are happening right now, so it would make sense for us not to hear about something for another month or so, I think, with this alien talk. Or it is just another preparation for us to be desensitized to when there's a fake alien invasion to create a one world government.
Do you think that there are aliens in the government already that are trying to plot out their plan on, a global takeover?
It could be. I think I'm at the point where there either already are aliens there, or it's just the government's way to get us to listen and to trust them and to look forward to them for safety and protection. Um,
Mm,
I'm not too, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm right down the middle there. It's one or the other.
okay. And so if let's just be hypothetical for a bit. If the aliens were to come and invade, right? And they came with a whole ass army of other aliens and they have all this technology and they're, invading Earth, would you be able to survive that invasion?
No one would be, no one would be able to. They would just blow us up in a matter of a millisecond.
But
A species,
why would they want to
go
blow us
ahead.
up if they're trying to take over the globe? You think they have the technology to kind of revive the whole planet if they do
Maybe.
that much destruction?
Okay, so you're saying that they'd come to Earth as just a takeover, like an invasion type of
Mm-hmm.
thing, and not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily wipe out the human race.
Would you
Okay.
want to wipe out the human race? Do you think they would want to wipe out?
No. I mean, they could. Who knows? It just
Mm,
depends.
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of things in there, but if aliens were to come to our planet with the intention to invade and take over the planet, there's no way we'd win. We People haven't even been to freaking Mars yet. If an alien's able to come to Earth from likely another galaxy, they have technology so superior to us to the point where we're nothing. It'd be like as if humans tried to go ahead and take over the Earth from chimps. It just happened in an instant. We could do it, right?
You're right.
Like it's easy. So I think it would be, I don't know. I think it's foolish to think that human race could defend an attack against aliens.
Hmm. So most likely you wouldn't survive.
I don't think so.
What
If
happens
the
if you
intention is to eradicate us,
what happens if you like side with the aliens, like you'd be a traitor to the humans, but your survival rate is probably increased from 0. Would you
right?
side with them?
I guess I guess my question is that if you were, long time ago when colonialism was a thing and you found a forest or somewhere and there were chimps there, and what would you try to do? Would you just find a friendly chimp and just that would be your chimp that would be on your side? Or would you just do the same thing that you would do with all the other chimps?
I would try to actually find that one chimp that would be on my side because for me, that's just more information and uh more leverage that I could use
Mm.
to
Mm.
either position myself or to put myself in a better position or to put society in a better position as a whole.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because it's
think
not
that
all
would
about
be
like,
that could be it.
eradication or like, oh, I'm siding with these people because I want to live. Like I'm just trying to do what's best for me and everyone else as a whole, really.
Yeah. I just, I just think that if aliens were to come to Earth, one is why would they?
Mm,
Why would they come? One would be to, maybe the universal trade system is a real thing, kind of similar to what we have on Earth, where all different nations trade with each other.
mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something. Maybe that's something that's real.
Mm,
And so maybe they would just come peacefully, but they wouldn't bring an army if they were to do that. There's
mm,
Why would they? Instead, they send a couple of diplomats, right?
right.
So you have a couple aliens that would show up. So that could be one thing. But other than that, why else would they show up on Earth? If they wanted to infiltrate governments, interfere with everything else globally, at that point it's a game. So they're just seeking pleasure at that point. So
So
yeah,
you
they would do it,
think
but they wouldn't send more people.
so you think we're so behind on technology, uh, galactically, let's just say that
Hmm.
there is no incentive for them to even come and invade us in the first place.
Unless there's a resource on Earth that's so important to them, that's necessary for them to survive or to advance, nah, why would they?
Do you think
Except unless they want to have fun.
do you think water is that necessary resource?
From the science that we understand, yeah, all living life forms need water. But if they have the ability to travel intergalactically, who's to say there aren't other galaxies that might be closer to them, or galaxies that have planets um, that don't have a species living there already?
Hmm.
Or maybe they've already explored those areas and then Earth is the last place that they can come to. And then at that point, it'd be a hostile takeover,
Hmm.
because it's a matter of their species living versus ours, which they wouldn't care, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Earth would do the same thing if we were able to do that.
Okay. And so, do you think that if we do, right, come into contact with with these aliens, how would we be able to communicate with them,
That's something I've always wondered. How would we?
right? Because
You know?
like they don't speak our language, and we definitely don't speak their language. Um, like how do they even communicate? Because there's all these stereotypes about how aliens communicate. They sound like blah, 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 or like they're like throw up like signs with their hands, or they'll use some like telekinesis to like speak with their mind, or they have like a technology where it's like auto translation already, like right off the bat. Um, that's something I've always wondered too, because like how would we even communicate with these guys? We can't write to them. We can't speak our
Hmm.
minds to them. They could probably read our minds, but how would they make sense of that?
Hmm.
How do you
So
think we
I,
would
I
be able
think
to
that,
communicate?
that would just go back to why they would come to Earth. If they are coming to Earth to be, diplomatic, then they would do their research. I would hope and think that they would do their research beforehand. Just from what we think of, intelligence, we in politics, we think before, we have a plan before we actually go and present whatever thing we're looking for, what we're looking to achieve. We game plan accordingly. So I would imagine it'd probably be something similar with the aliens if that was their purpose coming to Earth. But if that's not their purpose coming to Earth and they don't want to, do trades with us, or they don't want to, mess with us, and it's something else, then I would imagine they wouldn't care how to communicate with us. They would just do what they want to do and then leave.
Something that just came into my mind. You brought up like them planning and coming up with the plan and
Hmm.
basically testing it out. What if um like alien civilization is more tribalistic than democratic?
It could be. I mean, at that point, who knows? I'm not sure. What do you think about that?
I don't know, cause like it really depends on the species of alien, right? Like if you're let's just say like you're from some backwater planet called Tatooine, right? Like there's only a very, very minimal population of aliens there. At that point, I feel like those aliens would be more tribalistic than, you know, uh, democratic. But if there were aliens that came from, a largely populated planet and they have like systems in place, I think they would have like some form of government or some form of uh, control, governing body or something to kind of diplomatically interact with other planets. But huh,
Yeah,
I
no,
it just
that's
depends.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah. Again, I think the biggest, at least for me, the biggest thing is why are they coming to Earth? And from there, that's when I think it's helpful to determine, like how you can determine what's the likely outcome from that.
that's true.
Um,
It would just have to depend
because
on like what kind of aliens do come for
yeah,
us.
because if you have aliens who are just, they're going around the world, galaxies, and they come across Earth that has water, and they're just stopping because they need to replenish certain resources, let's say, and they have a need for similar resources that we have here on Earth, then maybe it's just a brief moment. They replenish and then they're gone. So that could be
Mm.
it.
Mm.
And so maybe if what the government is saying is true, maybe they were able to find those aliens and somehow communicate with them what's going on. Or maybe they've never been able to communicate with them what their true intentions were with Earth, and instead they just viewed it as a threat and did whatever they do.
Do
So
you
I
think
guess
that
there's another thought.
do you think that humans have already been abducted by aliens?
I think there's a chance. I won't rule anything out like that. I'm not 100% set in stone like, yes, that's happened, but I think there's a good chance that it's probably happened.
Interesting, interesting. And if you were to be beamed up by an alien, right, and they probed your mind, what would be that one significant memory, that one core memory that you have that would stand out to them?
Mm, I think man, that's tough. I think it's when um, my wife and I first met, like when we first really started talking, because we
Mm.
knew each other for a few years before we started like, flirting and stuff. So I think that could probably be that memory that they'd see. Because I'd imagine that that's probably what I would be thinking of if I was thinking I was gonna die, I'd go back to that.
That's very wholesome. That's cute.
Yeah.
Thinking about that first moment y'all met before your
Yeah,
eventual
and then
death. Who knows? You might not
just
die
going
if
through
they
all of
probe you.
the memories we have. Yeah, who knows? Maybe I
Yeah.
wouldn't die, but if I was conscious and I was abducted, I would sure as hell think that I'm gone. I'm done.
What happens if they're just probing you for, like an experience? Because that's what I feel like what most aliens would probe humans for is to learn from their experiences. Like, what did they go
Right.
through? So, because they don't know about our culture, they don't know about us. The only way they can learn is through
hmm
experience, right? But they can't experience that themselves unless they probe a native to the planet themselves.
So what I'm just imagining when you're giving me that scenario is randomly waking up on an operation table
Mm-hmm.
and having no idea what's happening.
Yes.
And so then, like that's what I'm imagining. So I'm just thinking like, what the hell's happening? Like, what's going on? Am I dying? Like what? And especially if there's aliens, like foreign figures, and I'm just like, whoa, so I would just think I would die, and hope that I'm not, but like just yeah, that'd be a wild
Whenever
experience.
I ask that question, I always imagine, right? Like, this is what's going through my head. I just imagine some UFO, random UFO that has like an invisibility cloak. They come to like a random
hmm
house or they just go up to like a random person like walking on the street or on the sidewalk or in a park or something that's kind of secluded. They beam up that human. It's like a blink of light or something. Um, that human is then transported inside their UFO, and at that point, it's like you lose consciousness from that beam. And in my head, they kind of put you in this like incubation chamber, like this little like what's the best description? It's like the chamber thing in Dragon Ball Z where they put you in that little
Oh
chamber and you're
yeah.
sleeping. Yeah.
Yeah, the hyperbolic time chamber.
The hyperbolic time chamber. And then they run like a bunch of like tests. They have all these like computers and doodads, like what most media has shown us that aliens have, like these like weird ass holographic screens popping up and then just, them bloop, 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 bloop. And then yeah, after that they just send us back to wherever we were and just continue on our day. Do you think time is relevant to aliens?
So I was just about to bring up something because that just like flooded my brain with some thoughts. So, because you said that they beam you up, you lose consciousness, and you're in a hyperbolic time chamber where time passes so much faster, or like, like 7 years is equivalent to a day or
Mm-hmm.
something with
Mm-hmm.
Earth years. And I'm sure you've heard of the simulation theory.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, what if that's what's happening to humans? What if we've already been
Mm.
invaded by aliens? What if they're
Mm.
already learning from us and we're just living in this simulation, right?
Right.
Where we've been beamed up, we're in a hyperbolic time chamber, and then we're experiencing all these things that feel like real time to us, but in reality, it's only been a day or it's been a week.
Mm.
I don't know that's kind of far out there, but that was interesting.
That's
That was
crazy.
trippy for
No,
me.
no, yeah, that's insane, actually. Like we're just kind of it's like we're back testing ourselves. Oh
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Exactly.
Well, um I feel like that's enough alien talk for today. I don't want them to, catch on to me or anything. I don't want the government, you know, watching me. I feel like I'm already being watched low key.
We'll get beamed up next.
Yeah. Hopefully, because there's a lot of inside jokes among my group of friends. They always say that, yeah, you already got probed by aliens, dude. You're just doing their work for them now. And I'd like to believe that yes, I am doing the work for the aliens because I am an alien myself. But Bryce, thank you so much for coming on to Probing Aliens.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yes, yes, thank you for sharing your knowledge about trading and just how to make money in general. Having good money habits, risk management, back testing, just developing healthy habits when it comes to money in general, you know,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
and your thoughts on aliens. Yeah, I appreciate you a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you as always.
Love you.
And until next time, peace. Greetings, Earthlings. If you did enjoy this episode, please do give us a like on whatever platform you were watching this slash listening to this on, whether it be uh, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Twitter, SoundCloud, Pocket Cast. We're also on socials like Instagram, TikTok, again, YouTube. So, Twitter. Don't forget Twitter. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, go give us a follow. Check us out.